94%. That's the percentage of actively managed stock funds that underperforms the S&P 500 over 15 years. 94. I know that number. I used to sell the other 6%, or at least I thought I did. My name is Rich. I spent years as a licensed Wall Street stockbroker. I had the license, the suits, the clients, the pitch, and I told people confidently, professionally, and with a straight face that we could beat the market. And I was wrong. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how wrong, what it cost most people who trusted me, and what I actually do with my own money now. So stick around, because the math in this video is going to make you genuinely angry, and it should. Here's the fact you need to lock in right now before anything else. 94% of actively managed funds where a human being is being paid to pick stocks, underperform their benchmark index over 15 years. That's not a rumor. That is a SPIVA score published every year by S&P Global, the same S&P that runs the 500. Lock it up, which means the entire premise of paying someone to pick stocks for you, the premise I built a career around, is statistically a losing bet 94% of the time. Now, before we get into why this happens and what you do about it, it's story time. So, the year was 2001. I was a young broker, maybe 2 years in, genuinely convinced that I had found the next big thing. And it was a company called WinStar Communications, telecommunications, broadband. The internet was the future. Fiber optics was the future, and WinStar was laying cable everywhere. My research said buy. My gut said buy. My client said, Rich, are you sure about this? I said yes, I was sure. And then WinStar filed bankruptcy 4 months later. One of the largest telecom bankruptcies in history at the time. I lost clients' money, real money. And I sat there at my desk looking at the position and thinking, how did I miss this? And honestly, the honest answer, which still took me several years to admit, is I didn't miss it because I wasn't smart enough. I missed it because the game is rigged against the stock pickers. All of us, even the people with Bloomberg terminals and research teams and MBAs. Why stock picking fails. Let's start with the math problem nobody in industry wants to talk about. When you try to beat the market, meaning you try to buy stocks that will go up more than the average, I mean, that's what you do. You're competing against every other person trying to do the same thing. Hedge funds, pension funds, algorithms running thousands of trades per second, people with information you will never have, moving faster than you can blink. This is called market efficiency. And it doesn't mean markets are perfect. It means that any publicly available information, any earnings report, any news story, any analyst upgrade is already priced into the stock before you finish reading the headline. By the time you see it, it's over. Warren Buffett, who is one of the 6%, genuinely said it himself. He told his wife that when he dies, the money should go into a simple S&P 500 index fund. Warren Buffett, the greatest stock picker alive, telling to his wife to buy the index. If that doesn't make you think, I don't know what will. Section 2, the expense ratio bomb. Now here's where it really gets ugly, and I want you to pay attention here because this is the number that will haunt you if you let it. When you invest in an actively managed fund, the kind your broker sells to you, the kind I used to sell, you pay a fee every year called an expense ratio. That fee is taken out of your balance automatically. You never see it leave. It's just quietly gone. The average actively managed mutual fund charges around 1% a year. Some charge 1.5%, and some charge more. A Vanguard S&P 500 index fund charges 0.03%. It's not a typo, it's 0.03%. Now let me show you what that difference actually means. So let's say you have $500,000 invested. It's a real number for a lot of people heading into retirement. At 1% in annual fees over 30 years, assuming a 7% average return on the market, you're gonna lose approximately $380,000 to fees. $380,000 gone silently before you ever see it. At 0.03%, you keep almost all of it. That is the fee you are paying for the privilege of a fund manager who 94% of the time is going to underperform the index anyway. So you're paying $380,000 for worse results? Yeah, that's the deal. So now I want to be fair. There are good active managers. There are funds that outperform. But here's the other problem. You can't know in advance which funds they'll be. Studies show that past outperformance does not predict future outperformance. So last year's winner is next year's average, and you'll be paying the fee either way. And it can even be a loser and paying the fee on top of that, which is usually the case. Section 3, what brokers are actually paid to do. I want to pull the curtain back on something now because it is the part nobody ever tells you about. And it's the one that I know firsthand. When I was a broker, I was not paid to make you rich. I was paid to keep you invested, keep you in products, and generate transactions. Every time a fund was sold, the fund company paid the brokerage a distribution fee. Every time a trade was made, a buy or a sell, the brokerage made a spread. The system was built architecturally, structurally, to produce revenue for the firm, not for you. Now that's changed somewhat. The fiduciary rule debate has been going on for years now, and some advisors today are true fiduciaries, legally required to put your interests first. But a lot are not. A lot are still operating under the suitability standard, which means they only have to recommend something suitable for you. Not the best thing for you. Suitable and best are not the same word. When I was on Wall Street, we used to joke the 1% fee was suitable, even if a 0.03% alternative existed. It wasn't illegal, it was just business. So when your advisor recommends a fund, ask them, are you a fiduciary? And get it in writing. If they're not, that should tell you something right there. Section 4, what I do with my own money. What do I actually do? I own index funds, broad market, low cost, boring, beautiful index funds. I hold a position in total US market. I hold an international exposure, and I hold some bond allocation appropriate for my age. And I have some gold and some silver funds as well. We're gonna do a whole video on that because the bond conversation is more nuanced than most people think. I don't like to pick stocks anymore. I don't try to time the market. I don't pay a manager 1% to underperform the thing that I could just buy for 3 cents on the dollar. Am I saying nobody should ever individually own stocks? No. If you want to own Apple or Microsoft or whatever you believe in, put 5 to 10% of your portfolio in individual stock picks. If it keeps you engaged and excited and you're into it, that's fine. But the core of your wealth, the money that matters, should be in the index. Let the market do what the market does over time. The Vanguard Total Stock Market Fund has returned an average of about 10% per year since inception. Not every year. Some years it gets crushed. But over time, on average, through crashes and corrections and recessions, 10%. And almost nobody beats that consistency over 20 years, including me. All right, 3 things you can do actually this week. Move number 1 is look up every expense ratio on every fund you currently own. Go to your brokerage account, find the fund ticker, Google it with the word expense ratio. If you're paying more than 0.2% on any equity fund, you need to have a conversation with yourself about why. Move 2, check whether your financial advisor is a fiduciary. Go to financialadvisor.sec.gov, type in their name. It's a public database. It tells you their registration type, any complaints, their fee structure, and it takes 5 minutes. It's worth it. Move 3, look up the SPIVA scorecard. S&P Global publishes it free every year. Read the 1-page summary. Show it to anyone who tells you their advisor can beat the market. Let the data do the talking. That's it. 3 moves, no excuses. All right, ask me anything time. These are questions from you. Question number 1, Rich, should I move everything to index funds right now? And I say not necessarily all at once. There are tax implications to selling existing positions that you need to think through. But directionally, yes. If you're in high fee, actively managed funds, a conversation with fee-only fiduciary advisor about how to transition, not your current broker, is worth having. Question 2, what's the best index fund for a beginner? For most people starting out, I say the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF at the 0.03 expense ratio. It covers essentially every publicly traded US company, one fund done. If you want international exposure, alongside of it, add VXUS. That's it. You don't need anything else to start. If you've got a question, drop it in the comments. I read them, I answer them. Every week I take the best questions and I answer them in the next video. 94%, that's where we started and that's where I want you to leave. Not to scare you, not to make you feel like you've been cheated, though if you've been in high fee funds for 20 years, you kind of have been, but because the fix is simple, it's cheap, and it's available to anyone watching this right now. The market will do what the market does. Your job is to own enough of it, cheaply enough, for long enough, and let time do the work. That's leverage. Not picking the right stock, not finding the right manager, owning the whole thing for almost nothing and staying out of the way. Next week, we're going to start getting to something I know you've been thinking about, the 401k fees that are quietly costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars inside the plan your employer picked for you. Most people have no idea this is happening, and that one drops next week. So subscribe if you want to know the stuff that they don't tell you, but they do put it in the brochure a little bit. So anyway, I'm Rich. This is the Leverage Report. I'll see you next week. Take care.